it Dave Biddle from 24/7 Sports.
Mix it up.
Playing at Wrigley Field, just your thoughts on that. It's very unique. What are you excited about? And what maybe are you concerned about, if anything, with how close the wall is to the end zone on one side? Just thoughts on playing at Wrigley.
Well, first off, it's got great tradition. Growing up and going to Fenway Park and being around baseball and seeing some of the great games played in that stadium. And then as I got older, I had an opportunity to go see the Cubs play in Wrigley, and just the surrounding area, the restaurants that are in the area. It's just got a great vibe there, right in that neighborhood, and it's a very unique place with unbelievable history. And so it's a great opportunity for us. I'm also excited for Buckeye Nation to get to the game and the fans to be there as well and experience that and to get an idea what kind of presence we'll have at the game. I've been a part of teams that have played at Yankee Stadium and then over in San Francisco where the Giants play, and it is different. It's a different feel, but it's a great opportunity for our team, and ultimately there'll be 100 yards of football field and there'll be stands on both sides, and we'll compete. So we're excited about it, and we'll be practicing on the turf this week or on the grass this week to simulate what it'll be like there.
Far left, Joe Nugent, WCMH.
With Trey averaging an extra yard per carry on the ground through 9 games compared to last year, have you seen him look a little different at all this year?
I think he's running very well. I think he's running with power. I think he's playing well without the football. He's shown that he can do damage around the edge. He can do damage up the middle. Great in pass protection. So I think he's playing at a high level, and I think that he and Quinchon are a big part of, or a great example of what it means to be unselfish. And that's a big part of our run here in November and at the end of the season. Not worrying about touches, not worrying about carries, not worrying about those types of things, just knowing that, the number one goal is to win. And usually when you have that attitude, you find a way to win. And I think that both of those guys have been very unselfish this year, and they're both playing very well.
Over to the right, Don Sperry, WBNS.
Coach, obviously you talked last week with November coming in and everything. Just your mindset now, happy with what you saw Saturday, and how important is it to keep it going with 3 games to go, and obviously big goals that are going to be coming?
Yeah, well, first off, what we've done leading up to this point really has nothing to do with what's going on moving forward. It's all about what we do moving forward. But coming out of last week, I felt like, we showed some consistency, which is important. When you think about consistency, people say, well, a team flashes or a player flashes. That means they've shown that they can do it. Consistency means you're doing it over and over again. It becomes who you are. And we won the turnover battle, won the rushing yards, won the explosive plays. When you do that, you give yourself a chance to win by the margin we won on Saturday. So we got to keep building. We got to stay consistent. The players, the coaches got to continue to bring energy. This time of year, you got to be at your best. And there's a lot that comes with that. And every day you got to bring it. You got to continue to upgrade. You got to, find out ways to continue to build on what you have and find new wrinkles along the way, but allow the players to play really fast. And the leaders got to lead. And so all those things, lead you to, where we are right now. And, it's November. We want to be undefeated in November. And, I think our guys know exactly where we are in this right now. So we need a good week of work here ahead to Northwestern.
Dave Holmes, WSYX.
Ryan, I know you don't pick when you play. I'm well aware of that. But there's been some fan backlash. People think too many noon games in a row. This one technically is going to be an 11 a.m. local out there. How many noons or too many noons? Do you guys care? What's your thought on time of day and all these noon games?
Well, listen, I got to deal with a lot of fan backlash for other things other than the times of games. So I'm going to leave that for other people to deal with. I got other things I got to deal with. Whatever they tell us to play, we're going to play. It doesn't matter where it is. It could be in a baseball field. It could be 11 a.m. Could be at night. Whatever it is, we're going to put the football down and go play, and I'll worry about the team.
Dylan Davis, Delaware Gazette.
Just to build off that, just out of curiosity, what do noon games do in terms of recruiting on game day that makes it more difficult than maybe otherwise if you had a 3:30 or night game opportunity? Is there a big change in what you're able to do or how many guys you're able to get?
One thing, the time of game sometimes can affect just who comes into the who's able to make it from out of state, a little bit further away. That's about it. And it's just the one thing that we've done, we know that we have these noon games here in the back half of the season. So we've just been really working hard on getting guys to bed early at night and then waking them up early in the morning just to kind of get their biorhythms in order. They've done a good job of that. So that's about it. Other than that, we're playing football.
Yeah, real quick, I talked to him on Saturday after the game, and he talked about his willingness, like a mindset, a certain mindset that he has of everything in his life that's allowed him to take the next step as a blocker and really kind of, find his place on this team. What have you seen from G in his transition just throughout his time here?
Everybody has their own journey, and I'm not sure that G, ever could have conjured up the journey that he's had since he's been here. I won't get into it, but he's had loss in his life. He's had success. He's had changes in his life, and he's gone on a journey. And it's found him where he is right now. And he's having an impact on the field. He's having an impact off the field. And I'm proud of who he's become as a young man. And that's a big part of this job is helping young men find their way on their path. And he's done that. And great to see him play well, great out of champion this past week and get a touchdown catch. We're going to need him. Going to need him this week. Going to need him moving forward. So, older veteran guys that have been through different things help you because of their experience on the field, but they also just help you emotionally just work through the season, some of the challenges that come because everybody has challenges. And he's been through his. And so great to see where he is right now and take some things in his life and turn them into real positives.
Right behind him, Andrew Gillis, Cleveland.com.
Ryan, what did you see from Carson on Saturday? How did he grade out in the second game?
He was solid. I felt like, he's taken the next step at guard, playing against a front where it was a lot of, we call bear front, which is, really 5 down. There's a lot of one-on-one blocks there. So you got to sustain your block a little bit longer. But overall, I felt like he was solid. I felt like he took the next step, in the progression of playing guard as a starter. And, we'll have another week of work here. But, he came out of it healthy, which is good because he did have that one moment where he's kind of got a little scary there. But he's fine now. And so another week of work, another week of experience at playing guard will go a long way.
It would be really beneficial for him to have learned behind Luke Wickler. But with Seth, you said, he's learned a lot from him. What specific lessons has he taken from him?
I think there's a lot you can learn there about not just the position and the technical parts of playing the game, but also just the preparation, the practice habits, how to handle certain situations, being resilient, persevering through, good times, bad times, working through issues. When you're with the offensive line, sometimes you're going to get into a game and see things that maybe hadn't shown up, in practice or the week before. And so navigating through all that is part of it as well, and with confidence and not losing your aggressiveness. So, there's a lot there, obviously with the technical parts of the game, but also just emotionally understanding how to attack it.
Tony Girdman, Buckeye Huddle.
Ryan, Maurice Clarey's been around the program a bit now. What is he doing for you, for the team, for players, and what was the thought process in bringing him back?
I have a lot of respect for Maurice and, where he's come in his life. And this is somebody to me who, has helped out other programs. He's done a great job with UConn basketball. And he's a guy that I like having around our players. I like talking to him. I love his mindset. He brings a toughness, a seriousness that and a credibility with our players that I think gives us an edge. And I like having him around our program. I got a lot of respect for the things that he's been through and overcome and the success he's having in his life now. And again, I think he's an asset to our program. And so, he comes, once a week, he'll come around and watch some practice and then come to the games. And I think our guys have really, latched on to him.
Separate from that, you do a lot of studies. Have you done any studies about the slip rate on the turf in Ohio Stadium compared to nationally? Is that something you guys have looked into it all?
So we've looked into a lot of things, and one of the things that we wanted to do was we wanted the field out here on the practice fields to be the same exact style that's in the stadium. And so after each game, we'll look to see if there was any of that going on, and then get back with the folks at the company and make sure that all the tests are coming back the way that they should. And so we've been asking those questions. They've come in, they've taken things in or taken things out. They put things in to make sure that it's right for our guys. And so we'll always look at that every week to make sure it's right.
Dan Hope, 11 Warriors.
Ryan, just after watching the film, how did you evaluate Edric's first start, and how do you think he can build off of that?
I thought there was good there. There was obviously the one silly penalty that he'll have to learn from. But overall, I thought there was really a lot of flashes there for somebody who's not played inside a whole bunch in his career. He's got strength. He's got power. He ran to the football. Didn't quite grade out, but I think there's a really bright future there at 3 technique for Edric.
Stephen Means, Cleveland.com.
When developing the deep ball as a quarterback, what's the more difficult thing in trying to learn and developing the overall arm strength it takes to get it there, or maybe the timing it takes to develop that with your receivers?
Yeah, a big part of it is footwork. It's the footwork. It's being able to time up your footwork with the route, and that's something we're going to continue to work through. And with Will on, I think he's thrown some really good balls down the field, and then sometimes been a little bit late with his feet. So we'll keep working on that because when his feet are right, he throws a good ball.
Will has talked about just adjusting to playing with these types of receivers, right? Where just throw it over to let him run under it. And it just seems like sometimes where maybe he underthrows it. Where is he in this kind of developing that and getting used to playing with receivers like this, where you do kind of got to throw it out there and let them go get it a little bit more often?
Yeah. I think he's adjusted now. He's been with these guys for a while, so I just really think that it comes down to footwork, and getting and letting it go, and because when his feet are right, I mean, he throws a really good ball down the field. So that's something that we got to keep building on and growing on, and I think it was the same thing on Saturday with the long ball to Carnell. Not that it was a bad throw, it just it could have been thrown a little bit more juice, and I think if the footwork's a little bit better, it's probably a little bit more accurate.
Bill Landis, Kings of the North.
Ryan, you've talked a lot about making sure you have changeups throughout the season. Yeah. Is that any more of a premium in a year where you might play the volume of games you could play this year? Is that any more on your mind? Because you play a team in late December, the book they might have on you could be a little more expensive. You want to make sure you're kind of peppering in more of those changeups throughout the year.
I think it's something we talk about a lot, where you can get yourself to a point where you do too much and then you start to lose your identity, or you can do too much of the same thing and get caught. So there is a fine line there and a balance. And like you said, based on how many games you end up playing, I think you have to figure that into the equation of what you're doing, and making sure you put the right people in the right spots, making sure you're doing what your identity is, but then, like you said, having enough change up so that you're keeping people off balance. And but I think it could go both ways. You can get that too much down the road, and then you lose your identity halfway through the season. I've seen that, or 3/4 of the way through the season. So it's something we're keeping a close eye on.
You think this staff generally has done a pretty good job with finding that balance throughout the season?
I do. Yeah, I do. And then I think we've got a good balance right now, but time will tell. And so we'll keep swinging at it and making sure that we're doing everything we can and learn from things that we've done well in the past and things we got to do better.
Andy Backstrom, Letterman Row.
All right, 9 games in. How comfortable are you with the backup quarterback situation right now? What prompted the change from Devin and Julian on that third? Well,
yeah, we want to get those guys as many reps as we can. We'd like to get both of those guys reps, and in that moment, I felt like it was a third down. I wanted to give Julian that opportunity to go ahead and take a third down, and I thought he used it as an opportunity to scramble and make a play, and then didn't quite keep the thing moving. We wanted to throw the ball a little bit with Julian to see how he did, because hasn't really done that a bunch in games. Just missed one, and he and Brandon didn't connect. Would like to see him get a first down there. But I think that was a great opportunity for him. I'd love to continue to be able to do that, but as time goes on, you get less and less opportunities. We got to make sure we're winning games. So he and Devin are both working hard every day in practice. Getting Devin right now is our backup, but Julian's pushing hard, and so we'll keep evaluating it every week and see where those guys are at.
Pat Murphy, 24/7 Sports.
Ryan, we saw more of Quinshaw and Trayon on the field together. What went into kind of building that package beyond some of the short yardage stuff you've done, and then also Trayon's catch. We've seen him catch balls, maybe not in that fashion before. Just kind of expanding the offense a little bit there.
Yeah, I think that's kind of what we're talking about. And Trayon really has worked hard on his receiving skills. He spends a bunch of time on the jugs, running routes. He had spent a bunch of time running that route over the years. We never really got to it in the game, so we were kind of laughing that at some point we had to run that route because we had worked on it for like a couple of years and it just never came up. And the look was right, and I thought he really executed it well. A little slant and go on a linebacker, which we felt like was a mismatch for us. So well done there. But yeah, I mean, when you have guys that are playing well without the football in their hands like they are, and they can do multiple things, not just carry the ball, it gives you more versatility to expand those packages.
Stefan Kreishnik, Cleveland.com.
You talked about this a little bit on your radio show last week, but could you take us through the backstory of the bricks tradition you guys do after practice, and kind of how that started and why that became a thing this year?
Well, I think when you start the season with, so much talk about expectations and a bunch of guys that come back for a certain reason, I think it's easy to start focusing on like down the road, kind of where we are now. And in order to, make sure the guys understand that the work that we're putting in August and September as we're building up the season and building up our foundation, all those days mattered, and that we had to continually work on that because, how do you know how your foundation is? You go through a storm. And you find out what's left when you wake up the next morning. Well, it's the same thing. We knew that we're going to be storms along the way, and there's going to be big games along the way. And all those days and those bricks that we put in the foundation are going to be what matters the most. And ultimately, it comes down to our foundation against the opponent and all the work that we've put up into that moment. You don't just show up and think you're going to play in a game. You got to put all the work in and build a foundation up to that point of the fundamentals and the reps and all those things. So. After each practice, we hand somebody a brick. They go over, they put it, in the foundation. But we also take pride in it. Like, you got to make sure that it's real tight in there because you can't just put a brick in the foundation. If someone's just lazily putting a foundation in, when a storm hits, it's going to fall apart. Well, it's the same thing with the team. If you put a lazy day in, or you're not really having a lot of detail in your work and you just kind of let a day get away because you're going through the motions, it's going to catch us down the road. So it's a little bit of a metaphor to making sure that we show up every day and put the work in.
Is that something the coaches came up with, or players?
Yeah, something that in preseason camp that I kind of shared with the leadership committee, and they really embraced it.
Cameron T. Robinson, The Athletic.
Ryan, I know Jordan Handcuff was a big part of what you guys did defensively last year with his versatility, but it seems like he's added even more this year. How much progress have you seen with him adding different things to his toolbox, and how impactful is that for you guys and for him down the line?
Well, he's allowed us an opportunity to be more versatile and also build depth in the secondary because he's been able to play multiple positions. And having the 3 safety system does give us some opportunity to move guys around to play multiple positions. But that doesn't necessarily mean you can just do that. Jordan has shown that he can do that. And, the more versatility that he can bring, the more versatile our defense can be and the more options that our guys have back there. So, I've been impressed with the fact that he's been able to make that transition pretty smoothly. And I think his skill set, lends well to, building value to him as a player down the road too, being able to play nickel, being able to play safety. Certainly helping our team right now.
You guys talked about this, the word you used, re-engineering of the defense. You talked about putting your best players in the right positions to make plays. How impactful was Jordan when you guys were thinking about how you want the secondary, how you want this to look going forward?
That was a part of it. Yeah, that was part of it. There's a lot of conversation that comes with that, but him having versatility is a part of that. It does allow us to do some things that maybe we weren't able to before. But then again, you go back last week and he's back at nickel and doing a great job there. So, that is a part of it though. We want to make sure that our most impactful players are in the right spots, in the most important times.
Spencer Holbrook, Letterman Row.
You guys ran I think with the jack or a hybrid guy for 4, was there with Mitchell. Purdue had some success against it, but how do you balance seeing that team had a little bit of success against that changeup with also understanding that putting it on film and learning from it is actually positive in the long run?
Yeah, well, when Tyleek was in question early in the week, we felt like it was something that was an option for us to go to, where you take one of the tackles out of the game and put the jack in the game, Mitchell or CJ. And as you know, Jim has done this in the past, and so we looked at it, and we're going to continue to look at it. We think that it gives us a little bit of different spacing up front, and provides our guys an opportunity to be a little bit more aggressive in terms of not as much reading, but hitting the gap and trying to get some penetration on things. But we'll see how it fits moving forward. There were some things that we did that were good, but some other things that we got to execute better. But it was the first time we kind of put it out there, and so we'll look to build on it from here and see where it goes.
Adam King, WBNS.
When you look at, I know Heisman doesn't matter to you guys in the building, but it's obviously a trophy that you can add and helps in recruiting. Do you feel that your players are getting enough Heisman hype? I mean, there's a lot of talent around the program, and there's nobody really in the top 6, top 8 conversation for the number 2 team.
Well, when I think about the Heisman, I think about the most outstanding player in college football, and I think sometimes it can come down to statistics, which I think is unfortunate. But that is what it is, and I know that our team, we've had Heisman finalists before. This team's worried about winning, and that's really the only thing they're worried about right now.
Austin Ward, the podcast.
And when you think about the number of players that played on Saturday against Purdue and some of the experimentation with the scheme, and we spent all year talking about the length of the season and building depth. And Bill asked about scheme, are you more willing to do that earlier in games than you have been previously in your tenure?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I would say though. Yeah, I think we have a more veteran group, that understands what we're doing. I think when you have a bunch of guys that have played in the system for multiple years, it is a lot easier to kind of look at some different things or jump in and out of stuff, knowing that you already have X number of reps put away playing this style of defense. So maybe looking at something else isn't a bad idea. But then again, it can distract you from your your fastball. So this is a group that's played a lot of football, and they're smart and they're good. So as time goes on and these games continue, we try to figure out what is next, and those are all really good conversations.
So if the Jack, for example, if Purdue's having a little bit of success there, and it's a 1-possession game at that point, it feels like maybe in the past, it's 4 or 5 possessions, then the backups will come in. Are you holding your breath? Are you willing to take some chances in that, knowing that in the long run you're probably going to win? Or what's going through your mind if the experiments that I'm calling them aren't working perfectly?
Yeah, well, I really felt like even last week, talking to the guys coming off of the Penn State game, like we have to play depth. We got to get them in the game early, and we got to play them. And so, if there are ways to do that by calling a grouping in the game, whether it's an offensive grouping, whether it's a defensive grouping, and just saying, all right, in the third series we're going in the game, the decision's already been made. Coaches want to make sure they win the game, and that's kind of the number one thing for everybody. But at the same time, playing depth is important. I thought we did that in this game. It was a focus coming out of the Penn State game. We wanted to make sure that we played depth in this game, and let some of those guys get in there, because you just never know when these situations are going to come up here as we head down the home stretch. So we'll continue to look to play depth, but obviously the number one goal is to win a game.
Joey Kaufman, Columbus Dispatch.
And your pace on offense this year is slower, just plays per minute and stuff like that. Is that a product of the rules change? Is slowing that give you sort of an advantage? What do you think can maybe contribute to that?
Yeah, I mean our offensive plays are significantly lower this year. There's no question about that. I think we're right around maybe 65 or maybe 64. And just when you think of years past, maybe not in the last year, but I mean we're definitely less, or down on number of plays, which isn't always easy for the guys who want touches. And so that's another part of the conversation about guys being unselfish. The number one goal is to win the game. We feel like huddling allows, an opportunity, we don't have to worry about the signals or anything like that, which completely takes that part out of the game, which has become a big part of college football up until this year and continues to be. So that's one thing that, we just said, we're going to have the ability to do that. There's other times you've seen us go a little bit faster where we can go into a no huddle situation. And when that's appropriate, we'll do that as well. And so I think there's a give and take on all of that. How many plays you're trying to get during the season plays into the conversation, but then also schematically, and how you operate.
What does it require you to do by having fewer plays? Like, do you have to be more efficient or
Oh, yeah.
situational? Or
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, when it becomes more like the NFL in that situational football becomes critical. You have to be, very, very efficient. But it also allows you to control the game and, allows you to, really help the defense with the number of plays they're on the field and keep a defense that's much fresher. So all those things come into play. I mean, you think about the way that the Penn State game played a couple of weeks ago. You start with the ball back. We had the one long drive, field goal, and then they have their long drive, and then we have the ball back with 5 and change left, and that was it. That was the fourth quarter. We've been in fourth quarters before where there's probably been 6 or 7 possessions. It's just a different style of game. But when you can run the ball and control the ground game, then you can control the game. And right now we feel like we're able to do that, and we're also helping the defense.
If I can just clarify, when you said it takes away the signaling, the huddling, what do you mean by that? Or
well, now we can speak into the headset to the quarterback who's in the huddle, so that we don't have to worry about signaling.
Jeff Gilbert, Press Pros.
Coach, distractions and stuff. Some things have been mentioned that could be distractions. Heisman, noon games, all that kind of stuff. The way you guys played against Purdue would suggest that these guys are focused. How do you feel about their focus 9 games in, and is it where you want it to be, and do you have to worry about it as much as you maybe did early in the season?
Well, it's something that we talk about a lot, and I think our leaders are the ones that have to lead the way on this. And to block a punt early in the game kind of jump-started us, which was great. But we know that we have to be playing our best football right now, and people call them letdowns or whatever they are. After a big win, you see some teams across the country, and because you have to sustain a certain level over a period of time, and it was important for us to play well in this game. To play well in the first half, and then continue to play well, because again, is it who you are, or is it just something you did? You had a good game, or are you consistently playing at a high level physically and executing at a high level? So we talked to our team all about it. They're still 18, 19, 20. Some guys a little bit older, year-old guys, but you got to bring it every week, and that's what championship football is all about. And every week for us is like the playoffs right now. We're fighting for a chance to get to Indianapolis. So it's always a topic of conversation, and it's gonna come down to our seniors and leaders, and obviously how they echo that message. And because the players are the ones who have to play, they're the ones who have to do it on the field. And give them credit for being consistent up to this point. But like I said before, nothing we've done up to this point matters anymore. It's what we do moving forward. And I know that these guys are going to come in with a good week of practice here at 2:30.
Deep left, Noah Weisskopf.
Ryan, Northwestern, after just watching their tape, what stands out to you about them specifically?
And we've always had good games against Northwestern. Just most recently a couple of years ago when we played, Ryan Field, and the weather was a tough day, but it was, I think the final was 21-7, and it was everything we could handle to get out of there with a win. We played them in the Big Ten championship game. It's very similar to those teams. They're very sound in what they do. Their scheme is very sound. They're built from the inside out, and they're gonna make you win the game. They're gonna force you to earn it, and so they're a very good team, and a Big Ten team on the road, and you're in November, so we have to play well, and we always feel like it's about us, but we want to know our opponent, and they're always well coached.
Bill Rabinowitz, Columbus Dispatch.
It looked like Donovan Jackson took another step forward as playing tackle. Was that your impression? At what point do you think it'll be that he's actually a left tackle or a left guard trying to play left tackle?
I actually brought that up this past week. At what point does he become a tackle? Because I think he can be a very good tackle, and I think he has versatility. He's showing versatility, so he's just increasing his value overall, not only to this team but for himself individually. And we talked about, I don't know exactly what his weight's at today. I'll go find out, but trimming a couple pounds. Just when you're in there as a guard, you're working in a smaller space. A little more of a road grader, trying to move 3 techniques and noses, where now you're on the edge, a little bit more length, a little bit more athleticism, and so but he is athletic. He has length and he can move his feet. So just doesn't have the experience of somebody who's played multiple years at the position. But he's played up front, and every time he's out there, he's getting better. He's a quick learner, and it's going to be a big part of our November right here is how Donovan plays at left tackle.
I looked at the forecast on Saturday.
Okay, good. It's about 70 degrees less, or 70 miles an hour less than last time we were there.
What was that game like as a coach,
Oof.
knowing that you had to throw out 3/4 of your game plan?
Yeah, you learn. You learn to always have, the ability to go Wildcat. You better have that in November, and it might have been October, but in the Big Ten, because we came out for pregame warmups and the punter kicked it. The ball went straight in the air and landed on our side of the line of scrimmage, and I had to grab the ref and say, "What did that happen in the game?" Because I didn't even know the rule on that. And so what ended up happening was when the wind was in our face, and Northwestern did the same thing. They were trying to eat up the clock and huddle, and then when the ball was behind us, we were trying to go no huddle so that we could punt the ball and throw the ball with the wind behind us. But even when the wind was behind us that day, it was a challenge. So CJ did a great job pulling 2 big runs for us, and that's kind of what bailed us out. And but that was a nightmare of a day for sure.
I think it's good to go.
I think we're ready to go.
Final questions, Tim May, Letterman Row.
Yeah, just 2 quickies. Thanks, Jared. Number one, will y'all go to Wrigley Field on Friday afternoon? I mean, it's a baseball park's totally different from a football stadium. I know you know that stuff, but sight lines and stuff. Is that important to you to maybe get the team there?
We usually don't, but we are going to because it is unique.
And well, I mean, just what do you want the guys to see more than anything else? I guess when they're in there.
Yeah, I'd like for them to see just the makeup of it. I want them to see the turf. I want them to see where the infield is filled in with some of the sod. I'd like for them to see how we're going to handle halftime. We're going to be in the bullpen, not going up into the locker room. There's just some different things that I'd like for them to see, and then also show them a little bit about what it's like because it is going to be different. It's going to be a different feel there. It's a baseball park. It's different than a football stadium. So do I think it's a big deal? No, but a lot of people do that. They bring their team to the game or to the venue the day before. We don't usually do that, but we will on Friday.
Another thing, every week we see something new from this offense. You kind of got asked about it earlier, just about evolution of things. And have you been happy with what you've been seeing from the standpoint of one week to the next? Like maybe throwing the ball downfield of the running backs a little bit more than you have in the past and things like that. Just what's your mandate there, I guess, to chip more than anything else?
Well, I think there's been a lot of things that we've done well. I think there's other things that we got to continue to improve on. I think back on some of the things we've done well, and I think getting the ball to our playmakers in space has been good. I think, we've shown that we can be physical up front running the football. I think adding Will to the run game has made a big difference. We're continually pushing the ball down the field. And, I think that stretching of the field vertically, horizontally is going to be important as we move into November. But, being able to control the game by running the ball is, of the utmost importance. And that goes back to the conversation about huddling. You're controlling the game when you can run the ball and continue to get first downs. And not very different, but somewhat different than just in the past when, it was no huddle and, 35-28 or those type of scores. So, there's a lot to continue to improve on. There's been some really good things there. The challenges are going to continue to increase.
Is there a sense, though, that every play, like you talked about now, every play is sort of precious in its own right? I mean, there's so fewer of them.
Which is great.
Yeah.
Which is great. I mean, I think that's important. I think that's a good thing. Yeah, I think every single detail matters of every single play more and more. And I don't think that's a bad thing. I think it's a good thing. It allows us to trim down on the number of plays we practice and put more focus on execution.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Great, Coach. Thank
Yeah.
you very much.